Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about the upcoming FAA Advanced Aviation Advisory Committee meeting and what's going to be on the agenda. So it was last October that this committee met for the last time, and back then they were actually called the Drone Advisory Committee, or DAC. And at that meeting they changed their name to the Advanced Aviation Advisory Committee, or AAC for short, I guess is what they're calling it. They're doing that so that they can focus or add more agenda items related to things like flying taxis, I guess. And if you're not familiar with this committee, it's basically a group of industry experts that the FAA has put together to solicit advice for future rulemaking. So the FAA comes up with what they call these tasks, and they assign them to tasking groups, and they assign that to the committee, and then they go off usually for a few months, and they come back with a report, and at these meetings, those committees give their reports. And then sometimes at these meetings, the FAA also responds to the previous committee meeting reports. The next meeting is scheduled for this upcoming Wednesday, February 23rd at noon Eastern Time. And just like all their previous meetings, it will also be live streamed to the FAA's YouTube channel and Facebook group. And I'll put a link to both of those down in the description of this video so it's easier for you guys to find it. Okay, so let's go take a look at what the FAA is calling the eBook, which is really like a souped up agenda plus all the background information for everybody who's attending this meeting. And I'll put a link to this ebook down in the description as well, because I think if you're interested in this meeting, you should have a peek at this ebook as well. So the first thing I noticed when scrolling through this ebook was when I got to the section on the members of this, the membership list here, I could see that they added a new group or category here. Let's see, where is it? Here it is. New stakeholder group, which they call the Community Advocate, which is currently vacant. And this is a brand new stakeholder group. It wasn't in the meeting from last October, but it is here now. So I'll be really curious to know who they assigned to this. And then you'll also see all these other red vacants here. And it turns out that there are now 7 vacancies. And I think there was only 1 vacancy last time. So I'm pretty sure they've now added 6 new positions to this committee. Okay, so next I'm going to scroll way down because the top half of this document is sort of all the background information, and then down here you get to the slides that they're going to actually go through for the meeting, and then it kind of repeats a lot of the information because they put it into the slides. And here's a quick look at what the agenda is. And I'm going to scroll past some of the things like the opening remarks and blah, blah, blah. And then we get to the first real agenda topic, which is the FAA's response to tasking group number 11, which was on the acceptable level of risk white paper. So back in October, the FAA tasked group number 11 with reading their white paper that they had written on the acceptable level of risk. And back then, tasking group 11, their report contained 12 different recommendations to the FAA. And at this upcoming meeting, the FAA is going to go through those 12 recommendations and give their response to it. And I have to admit that a lot of this went over my head. I think I'm going to need to ask FPVFC President David Messina, since he was on this tasking group, to try to translate this into some plain English that those of us without an aviation background can understand. But in short, it seems like the FAA is giving an initial response to these recommendations, and that they're going to give an actual final response at their next meeting, which should be in June. And the reason for this not being their final response is that they want to wait until after they receive the official report from the Beyond Visual Line of Sight ARC, or Aviation Rulemaking Committee, which they haven't submitted that final report quite yet, though they're really, really close. And I think they want to wait because the official report from that Beyond Visual Line of Sight ARC doesn't quite see eye to eye with what Tasking Group 11 has reported here. And I know they're really close to giving that report. I think it's going to get to the FAA sometime in the beginning of March, would be my guess. So next up is the report from Tasking Group 12. TG-12 was tasked with integrating uncrewed aircraft operations into the K-12 curriculums. And here on this slide, you can see all of the people that were a part of tasking group number 12, including Dave Messina from the FPV Freedom Coalition, who once again had a major role in this group. And there are others there that you might recognize, like Josh Bixler from Flight Test. The AMA was actually a part of this group with Chad Boudreau and Emily Rice, and all kinds of other people. So Tasking Group 12 came up with 10 different recommendations, roughly related to making content and resources readily accessible, build connections for action and cultural transformation, and delivering aviation-specific curricula, specifically for K through 12 STEM-related programs, I believe. So this was the final report from the Tasking Group 12. They gave an interim report at the previous DAC meeting when they were like halfway through their allotted time. And since their time is now up, this is the final report. And then I would expect a response to this report to come in the next AAAC meeting, probably this June. And then next, the FAA is going to give an update on the Beyond Visual Line of Sight ARC, or Aviation Rulemaking Committee. And this ebook doesn't have any details here other than this one slide just saying that it's going to happen. But I do know that the Beyond Visual Line of Sight ARC is nearing completion and should be submitting their final report to the FAA at the beginning of March, I think. So while the FAA doesn't have the final report yet, they do know, because they're part of those meetings, that pretty much what's going to be in the final document. And that brings us to the air mobility part of the meeting, where the Los Angeles Department of Transportation is going to talk about their planning for the future with things like air taxis. And then it's no surprise that the next tasking is going to be related to air mobility. So it looks like the FAA is going to ask that the AAAC provide comments on the FAA's draft strategic framework for advanced air mobility near-term operations. So I'm pretty sure this is sort of similar to Tasking Group 11, where they're asked to read and respond to a paper that was written by the FAA. And that's pretty much it besides the closing remarks. So if you can, I want to urge you all to tune into the live stream, let the FAA know that we're here, we're watching, we're paying attention, and that we care about these regulations that affect all of us. And once again, the meeting will be live streamed on the FAA's YouTube and Facebook group, and it's going to be at 12 p.m. Eastern, February 23rd, and I'll have all the links you need down in the description of this video. The FAA's YouTube and Facebook channels, and I'll put a description,